Okay, good evening to everyone, and everyone is welcome to this particular session on especially use of action verbs when you develop your answers at the examination. Um, there is a particular purpose for conducting this session, apart from other supports for teaching learning. That is uh, to achieve the main objective of assessing students in a fair and very objective manner. I think if you have any questions arising from our discussion, I will not be able to just take them like in a physical class, but chat room is available. You can post your questions. The administrative team will take all those questions. If the time permits, at the end of the session, then we can discuss about those questions if there are. So it depends on the administration. So anyway, we would be discussing about this topic roughly about 2 hours, maybe less. So it depends. If one person is one-way communication for 2 hours, may not be that much convenient, and it's not interactive. So anyway, I will try my level best to deliver what the institute expects and what you want, like students or the examination candidates want in developing answers. I hope that screen is, I have just changed it to the slideshow mode. Everyone can see the full screen. My background is I am a fellow member of the institute and fellow member of CIMA. From my professional background, from my academic career, I am a full-time faculty member attached to the Department of Accounting, University of Sri Jayawardhanapura. Today's coverage includes importance of action verbs. What really action verbs mean, why are they important for us, and its relevance and significance will be discussed. And the action verbs used in CA curriculum. So like there could be many action verbs even in English communication or our day-to-day life conversation. We use action verbs. Are they the similar action verbs we use in examination with the same meaning or with a different meaning? To answer to this question, first we need to identify the examples of action verbs included in curriculum from 2020. So that is the second examination that you are going to face. In maybe examinations have been postponed due to the prevailing condition, but in due course you would be facing the examination under the new curriculum 2020. Then the most important part of today's discussion is this understanding of action verbs. Before reacting to action verbs, we must be able to understand what they are, what is really meant by each action verb, what specifically means by that action verb. Then we will move on to responses to action verbs. So that's your response. When there are actions, commands, reactions are there, responses are there. But your responses are not seen in any other forms, but seen only in the written form. What are your responses? Because we can respond to actions in different form. If someone asks you to run, then you run. That action is a physical action. But all the actions whatever the action verbs used in the examination, but your actions are belittled to written responses, nothing else. Then we will talk about techniques for preparing open book examinations, which is a new aspect of assessing and testing. How you are going to prepare for this thing. Basically, when we hear the word open book examination, it looks to be easy, like much more convenient because you have all the materials in your hand with you. Then you might feel that, oh my goodness, so that is easy. Everything is there, therefore I can answer the question paper. We'll see whether it is, I mean, it would be easy as we think, or it's a different story. Technically speaking, open book examinations are the most difficult ones compared to closed book examination. You may wonder, we'll see. Then the importance of action verbs. Why are they important for us for examination purposes? For examination, the action verbs, action really verb follows a real action. For the examination purposes, it helps, it really gives a precise direction to test intended learning outcome. You know that in the past, even not only in new curriculum or this is not new development, actually in any curriculum, whether that is in the written form or whatever the form, the end objective of a curriculum is to achieve certain learning outcomes. At the end of a particular course, a particular examination or session, the candidates, those who followed, or the students, or rather we would like to call learners, should have attained certain outcome, must be able to deliver something. Sometimes we call competencies or the competency levels we should have reached. These things are measured by intended learning outcome. So sometimes when you learn, you may simply ignore even reading intended learning outcomes. You may directly pay attention on the contents, what you are going to learn, maybe the syllabus, topic, title, all those things. But it is always worthwhile to read the intended learning outcomes. The intended learning outcomes of the entire program and intended learning outcomes of each and every course units. If you have not done it, please do it, because that would really help you to demarcate your lines easily. You know the boundaries of testing. As far as the knowledge or learning is concerned, actually need not to worry about any learning outcomes. In the thrust of just gaining knowledge, learning, actually there is no limit. Limit is the sky. Then you should not have any constraints. You should not worry about anything. You have to have a curiosity of learning. So that skill might help you to learn more and more. So that's good. So that is the meaning of education at the end of the day. So that would really enhance, so shape you as a highly qualified, high caliber citizen or a human. So that is a societal work. But when it comes to an examination, a specific program, course, actually for the examination purposes, there is no use of knowing or showing any competencies other than these learning outcomes. Because at the examination, we are not assessing you other than the learning outcomes. Sometimes this is in a way kind of warning in the classrooms or maybe in the universities. Sometimes students have a tendency of showing or demonstrating their knowledge, their skills, competencies, their attitudes. So that would be good in a learning classroom. Then even the teacher would understand the level of learning of students. That's really good. But in examination, like in all the examination, when we assess what we call through especially a summative test, summative examination, this is also CA examinations are summative examination, you have some other assignments as well, some additional works, but they are also in a form of summative examination. Because you learn, you experience something, gather exposure over a given period of time. At the end of that particular time, so everything is summed up into a question paper, and you would be tested, assessed. So when students are assessed in a summative examination, it is important to be limited to your learning outcomes. So therefore, we use these action verbs to precisely test whether candidates or students have achieved intended learning outcomes. The second one, it helps you guys as well, students, to focus on the answer. I do not know, I have lots of experience, the university and other places as well. There is a mismatch, and there is sometimes misunderstanding about these action verbs and student reactions. To great extent, even in national examinations like advanced level and university examinations, there is a tendency that students would tend to write what they know, what they have practiced, what they have developed their competencies in the particular subject or the course, instead of focusing on the action verb. So therefore, action verbs, why you have to master action verbs, why do you have to react to action verbs, why you have to carefully comprehend, understand the action verb, because then only you would focus on your answer. Otherwise, anything that you write or other responses apart from your action are not counted for assessment. You may have written nice answers, but may not be accommodated for giving marks, because evaluators are not allowed to do so. That you have to understand. No matter how competent you are, how skillful you are, how marvelous you are, how smart you are, what matters at the examination is whether you have delivered according to the action, whether you have given the response according to the action. So in our simple terms, so either by hook or crook, if you have given your response, that's it at the examination, right? So no matter whether, because we do not know whether you know your competencies and all these things, we assume you are competent enough, you have developed your competencies by looking at the response to the action. Therefore, it will help you to focus your answer. Don't deviate from the action. Simply speaking, you are not required to answer anything beyond the action. There is no point. Third aspect of this action verb is really lies with the assessors, examiners. It helps us to have or carry out an unbiased assessment of your responses. If the action verb is not that clear, I will show you some example, some examination also. Action verb may not be that much clear. Vagueness can be seen. Then even you do not know what to write. Even the examiner does not know whether the written answer is right or wrong, whether that is aligned with the expectation. That recalls what I have taught and what is in my mind. As a result, I may tend to assess you based on my imagination, my beliefs, and my knowledge, and I do not respect what you have responded. So this mismatch can happen. It's unfair by students, because nowadays we talk about learning environment. If you want to have very objective assessments, of course, it should be clearly communicated between learner and the teacher. So therefore, action verbs help us to carry out unbiased assessment of your responses, your answers. In a way, you can be now a little bit like happy. There is no that much leverage or freedom for the evaluators to have or use judgment in allocating marks. yeah, there may be very little insignificant judgment may get involved, but nothing to worry. That would not be significant. That would not really affect to the final grading. So again, if I just summarize the importance of these action verbs, it provides the precise direction to test ILOs and help you guys to develop and focus your answer. And again, it helps us to assess you in a fair manner. In all the aspects, it's a very just and fair mode of assessing students. Now, have a look at these action verbs. Yeah, action verbs used in CA Curriculum 2020. Action verbs have been grouped into 6 major categories: knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Actually, this analysis or the categorization has been derived from well-known educationist and psychologist, the Bloom. So Bloom's taxonomy. So Bloom is very famous on developing these cognitive competencies. And one of his major arguments in action verbs or the cognitive competencies or the domains is that human gain them in a hierarchical manner, in a gradual manner. So therefore, our teaching learning process should align accordingly in that hierarchical manner. Therefore, the assessment also should be done in that way. So lower order competencies and the higher order competencies. On the left hand side, starting from the knowledge, that is the lower order. So initially you need to know something. You need to be aware of something. That is the knowledge, what we call cognition. You cognize something, you by heart something, you remember something. So that is the initial cognitive part of the knowledge. You have gone somewhere, then you remember all the road signs or the important places. So that is also a knowledge. You learn about the basic subject like basic concepts, theories, and then you have, okay, you remember all those things, how things are connected to each other, how accounting standards require basic provisions to recognize assets and other items. So that is the knowledge. So you need to remember them. Without knowing or without remembering them, you can't proceed. So therefore, it basically addresses the cognition. The level of cognition may be very minor, little lower level, and goes up to high level, but that is also within the knowledge. So that is why nowadays there is a debate in the world about this education. Should we pay more attention on knowledge or not? Knowledge or not? One of the most dominant argument, together with the development of technology and other advancements in science, especially artificial intelligence and all those things, it argues that we should not spend much time on memorizing or cognizing things. So that means the knowledge component. But it does not mean that we can simply do away with knowledge, because there are certain things are required to put a very good or a fair foundation for learning or go up to the high level. So without that particular knowledge, you cannot. So therefore, don't misunderstand that the knowledge is not important, and the significance given for the knowledge or the structure of the knowledge has changed. So your time, memory, your capacity can be used for something else rather than keeping or storing facts in your brain or in your mind. So that is the present these learning domains. But basically you can gain that idea, knowledge, starting from knowledge. That is the cognition. Then comprehension, actually these two, like comprehension goes along with knowledge because they build, one is built on another. It goes in that way in a hierarchical order. So knowledge goes like helps you to understand things properly. Once you understand things properly, you can easily apply them. You can use it. You can calculate it. You can work it out and see whether it happens as you learn. Say to like chemicals, we know that H2O. So you know the components. So this is the formula. These are the ingredients to be used. Then you understand that. So how much should it be mixed and all those things, and what under what condition should it be done? Likewise, then you do and see whether it happens. So that is the application. Now you can see how the one component is built on the other. This is the application level. Then the analysis. You can carry out various types of analysis to expand the application. Then there may be other possibilities of knowledge, other possibilities of competencies. It does not stop at the level of application. Once you apply it, you would have a result. So what are you going to do with that particular result? You have to analyze in that way, this way, because there may be many outcomes, totally different alternatives may be generated. And then the synthesizing and evaluation. Synthesizing is in a way actually this towards the other side, top level of domain cognitions. These things are connected, go in hand. Sometimes synthesis may be seen to be superior than evaluation, or evaluation may be seen to be superior, or analysis likewise. You need not to worry that much. Actually, why these things have been given is not to specifically demarcate that these are the domains and you should know each and every domain, and therefore at the end of this particular course you should have reached the highest level, that is evaluation. Sometimes even in order to do an evaluation you need to have knowledge. So therefore don't think that once you reach to higher learning you should be fully with evaluation and synthesis analysis and you have to ignore the rest. No, it's not. They are interconnected. They are interconnected. So you have to understand this way. Sometimes it is very difficult for examiners even to separate these competency domains. So we are also confused, like whether is it connected with synthesis or whether it is evaluation, analysis. So likewise, this debate is open. So therefore, you should not take an unnecessary stress or time to separate these things and define them. We will just discuss the definition and all these things. I mean, there is a tendency because of this, you may think that, oh, this is a big issue, therefore we have to very carefully understand each and every action verb and separate them, distinct them, and all those things. No, but I'm just explaining you how they are connected to each other, how you are going to be tested. So the norm of testing is in any subject or in any course, whenever you reach the top level, higher level, you should not jump to that particular level. There should be a gradual progression. So that is the idea. When you take a particular subject, maybe taxation, auditing, accounting, finance, each subject, you may see this progression. Even in one section of a subject, maybe in financial management, say we'll take a topic of discounted cash flow techniques. So even within that, even one section, one unit, one aspect of a subject, you may see this hierarchical order. Again, when you take the entire course, in your course, there are subjects, in the subjects learning contents are there. And once you collect all those things, we call professional CA, that is a chartered accountant. Everywhere, whatever the aspect that you take, when it comes to competencies, you can see this gradual progression. That is the thing you have to understand. So therefore, each content, each subject, each program, each module, each any professional qualification, this can be seen. This can be seen. And then you may have a question. Now join the strategic level and corporate level. So that is in your CA program, higher order level learning. Therefore, should we focus only on analysis, synthesis, and evaluation part, and not the knowledge, comprehension, and application? So sometimes you may think that no, now we are on top level, therefore we need not worry about other domains. No, it's not the case. That's what I was explaining you. No matter what level it is, even at the highest level, to test or read this evaluation, one particular question may link with knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Got it? Even in your case study, more questions would be there on the evaluation and synthesis, but very few knowledge components, comprehension, and application may be there. You have to do your own calculation, that is your application. All are there, but there is a tendency more skewed towards analysis, synthesis, and evaluation when you reach the top order learning. That is the thing you have to understand. And again, you may see interconnection between these things. Actually, even among academics, still debate is going on. Can we specifically separate these knowledge domains? Lots of arguments are there. Some may argue that no, it's not possible. That's what I just told you. Better not to worry about the separation, but try to rather to understand the connection between these, how knowledge is gradually being built on. Now, before moving on to the meaning of each word, I would like to show you the Bloom's taxonomy. I just told you this separation for the table has been developed in your CA curriculum based on this Bloom's taxonomy. Here, Bloom's used different words. I'll just show you the comparison the next slide. First, we'll see how Bloom has explained them. Remembering, the initial stage is remembering. Cognition, initial cognition. Find or remembering information, basic things. Therefore, your action verbs may be list, find, name, identify, locate, so on and so forth. Then you move on to understanding. Understanding. That is, you understand and making sense. In academia, we use another word called epistemology, right? So that means you understand things as you know, based on your tools, based on your spectacles or your glasses. So these are your tools. So theories and your beliefs, facts, then you understand things. That's what we call the understanding level. Then the application level, actually you apply according to your knowledge and understanding. So that is the stage where you use the information to come out with some outcome. Use the information to develop something. That is called application. That is why we say use, diagram, make a chart, draw something, apply, solve, calculate, compute. Those words are within this application. Then analyzing. Take information apart and explore relationships. So in analysis cannot be done in isolation. It has to be done in a very comprehensive manner. So interconnectionships, relationships, and so many things, and even contradictions, even the context specific information, all those things are required to be taken into account when you do a very good analysis. So critical thinking is needed when you do analysis and move on to evaluation part. So the evaluation part is a critical examination of information and make judgment. So analysis, outcome of analysis will help you to think critically, and based on the outcome of this, you may make a judgment. So you recommend something, you come out with this kind of final or the top level for the learning. And finally, creating something, so that is use information to create something new knowledge, new way of solving problems, especially problem-based learning deals with this creation. So therefore we use design, build, plan, construct likewise. And again, don't be misguided that these are the only words that we can use within each category. No, that's not the case. These are only examples of action verbs. So therefore in CA curriculum 2020 has given you only as an examples of action verbs. So to great extent, we try to use those action verbs, but whenever it is needed and required, examiners have the freedom of using any other action verb. So no harm. Sometimes you may want like see a different action verb. You may make a complaint. No, that action verb is not there. How come? No. So that action verb may have so more like the similar meaning with other action verbs within a given each category. I hope that that is clear. And one more thing. These action verbs were developed by Bloom not only for one discipline of learning, So they were developed for the entire learning perspective. So we know that there are so many branches of learning, arts, science, mathematics, or now we have mainstream commerce, management likewise. So you can have so many different types of learning disciplines. Therefore, these action verbs are commonly available for any subject. For some subjects, you may have an opportunity of using many action verbs, but some subjects you may not have that too much flexibility of using many action verbs. For example, when it comes to subjects like accounting and taxation, you cannot use many options of action verbs, because to great extent in accounting, maybe reporting or financial accounting, to great extent they engage with calculations. Therefore, action verbs may restrict to application. Again, few action verbs: computation, calculation, or writing journal entries. Likewise, you can understand it. Even in the case of income tax, taxation. So you can't use all these things. So what is the lesson that we have to learn from there is that you should not have a conclusion that these action verbs must be able to use, or maybe a large number of action verbs should be used for each and every level. At least one or two action verbs should be used. No, that's not the case. That is for our understanding purposes. It depends on the nature of subjects, especially in the field of management. So subjects such as accounting, financial management, taxation might limit the use of action verbs. Subjects such as maybe economics, organization behavior, or these kind of things, maybe it depends how best you use it. Of course, when it comes to social sciences, you have a wide array of action verbs that could be used in SSC. Right. Now, this is how the hierarchy goes on up to creating level. Now we'll have a quick comparison. On your left-hand side, the action verbs given in CA. The right-hand side, Bloom's taxonomy. Actually, this one is the revised Bloom's taxonomy. These 6 categories were the previous taxonomy. So it does not create any problem. You need not to worry, because I just told you this is only for assessing purposes and not to buy hard each and every category and develop something. That's not the case. So you see anyhow some difference in the revised Bloom's taxonomy. The first one, there is no difference. Knowledge has been renamed. Actually, the Bloom taxonomy had said, like the revised one, rename its own knowledge component as remembering. Why? Whenever we have knowledge, definition, drawing, identity list, and all those things, that is remembering something, what we call highly cognitive approach. Then it was named as remembering. The comprehension, that is understanding, nothing but it's understanding, your epistemological thinking. Third one is the application, is applying. The same word is used. Instead of application, it's applying. You really apply. You engage in course of actions of doing something. Fourth one is analysis, as same as in the previous one. So there is no difference. Analysis, it's called analyzing, same thing. But you see a difference here. Synthesis was the fifth level according to the previous taxonomy. The new revised taxonomy, it's a creating level, creating new knowledge, new things. So need not worry that much, because that has been given, our competency level has been given to gain the basic understanding. Again, as I just told you, there is no big difference between the synthesis and evaluation. Always these domains go in hand. That could be the reason, but more precise, more revised version has identified or relabeled synthesis as a creating. And finally, evaluation as evaluating. So this is the only difference in the Bloom's taxonomy, the revised taxonomy. So just for your knowledge only, you need not to worry. You better pay attention on the action verbs given under our old taxonomy, Bloom's taxonomy in the syllabus. Now we'll have a quick look at each and every action verbs which have been given, just to give you a fair knowledge. I'll just quickly go through these things. This understanding is important, because this understanding will help you to decide the limit of delivery. Otherwise, you might write unnecessary things. Anticipate. So that is a foreseen, experience, or realized beforehand. So therefore, it should be the higher order level. So it is actually synthesizing level, foreseeing, forecasting, experience. So you realize by yourself with the given facts and information beforehand, before it happens. Therefore, it is higher order level, synthesis level. Advise. Advise. How do you advise, or how can you advise? How, under what circumstances would you be able to advise? You can't advise if you do not have adequate information. You don't have facts. If you are not analyzed, if you are not interpret them, if you have not made on your own conclusion and judgment, because to give an advice, you must be thorough or must be familiar with that information. So therefore, it deals with evaluation. So therefore, the meaning of advice is something like this. It's not simple explanation. It's not simple calculation. So if the action verb is an advice, you must be able to come out with something that is on your own. Your own judgment should be there. Analysis need not to have necessarily your own judgment. You analyze. The outcome of the analysis depends on the given facts. That's what you have to understand very carefully. If the action verb is analysis, analyze, then analyze cannot be done on imagination. But of course, you can use assumptions. That is a support for you to do the analysis. No harm, you can do this thing. You are free to do it, but you analyze based on given or assumed facts. Apply. That is also application level, mainly calculations, and use relate things. Then assess. Assess again, that is also within the application, but a little bit higher order compared to computation or calculation. You assess, you ascertain. You assess, you ascertain, something like. That's why I just told you at the very beginning, we need not to be very specifically or categorically know the meaning or distinguish this meaning from each other. Just get some or rough idea about each and every action verb, that would be enough. Calculate and compute, of course, it is within the comprehension, that is understanding. Classification. So you can't classify if you do not understand. Then communicate. So even though communicate is a verb, the action verb within the application, it has its own vagueness. What to be communicated? What kind of communication? Hmm? But in a way, it transmits, help you to transmit some ideas, thoughts to the other parties. So therefore, the communication carries some information which has been already computed. Then comparison, that is analysis part. So you have classification, then you have application. This information can be compared. So in the comparative stage, of course, similarities and differences must be able to found. Good example is case analysis, alternative scenario analysis. So likewise, especially different courses of action and strategic management. So most of decisions that corporate managers or professionals have to take at working places are challenging because of different alternatives available, especially due to the development of technology and the rapid changes that are taking place in the business environment. So today's course of action may be totally different from the tomorrow's course of action. We do not know. Even small changes in the technology, new development, science, and all those things would really alter the array of options available to you. So therefore, comparison is comparison has a very practical use for corporate managers. At corporate level, you may have to do this. Then compile, produced by assembling information collected from various sources. The compilation. So compilation cannot be done without having adequate calculation, applications, and analysis. So therefore, this goes to the final synthesis level. So compilation. Actually, when you develop a report for case study, it's a compilation. You compile something. So everything would be there. Convince, to persuade others to believe something using evidence and arguments. The convince, how can we use this particular word in our examinations? It is something developing your judgment. When you consult, sometimes you are required to develop a consultative report. So in that particular report, your action should be convincing. You must be able to convince about your recommendation. Feel convincing goes along with recommendations, judgment. Therefore, that is at the evaluation level. The conclusion, the conclude. If you are asked to conclude on something, that is also evaluation stage, higher order level. Then contrast. Contrast deals with comparison, examine in order to show unlikeliness or differences. Criticize, it's again higher order level, or criticize. Then now you may wonder, like, maybe some of these words, even when I explain these things, you may see similarities. Yes, of course. You have to understand the fact that these words have been developed for all the subjects, the gamut of subjects. It does not mean that we have to use all. Whatever the appropriate word can be used. Therefore, it depends on the examiner. What I'm just explaining, we do not know what words could be used. In case if the examiner has used particular word, you should know the meaning. So the critic or criticize deals to some extent evaluative with evaluative mode. You can't criticize without having facts, without having comparison, without having analysis. How do you criticize? You can criticize in your day-to-day life. That is baseless criticism. If you say something without having facts, that is not considered to be a good criticism. It should be the criticism should be with evidence and facts. Define is, again, since these words have been arranged in the alphabetical order, not the domain orders. I will go through that, is why you come across this define word later on. This is a very basic domain, that is the cognitive knowledge domain, initial stage. Define something. If you are asked to define, don't write unnecessary explanations. We have come across in many answer scripts at professional levels and university examination as well. Even in the definition, they define it correctly, and after that write lots of examples, explanations, so there is no point. Demonstrate, that is again application. You have to prove or show by adequate means. That means supports, evidence. Describe, communicate the key features. I would like to pay your attention on few things: define, describe, and explain. So I'll come to design later. So describe, communicate the key features. When you describe something, you better not to bring your own judgment. You describe what it is, what it is. But when you define, you need to give formally accepted definitions, written definitions, whatever. You can't give any other things. But in the description, you describe what it is as you understand, or as that has been established in that particular field of study. It's a description what it is. So describe how transactions are recorded in a ledger by using source documents. Then you have to describe how source documents are sorted out, how they are recorded, and how they are then posted into the ledger. So that is the step level. Once you describe that, that's it. Stop it. You got it? Need not to show any accounts, need not to draw prime entry books, need not to explain any other things. Sometimes the description or the describe and explain go together. It looks to be more or less the same. But in the description, you can describe what to be described, what level, limit, you have to decide. Got it? Because the description can be, for example, even prime entry the documents. You can describe the way it is recorded in the prime entry books. You may describe vividly, another person may have described in a very short, and someone may have described in with using any rhetorics or any other words. It depends on your ability, your competencies. There is no hard and fast rule that how it should be described, but all are descriptions. Description depends on how you look at this thing. And the one more thing should be taken into account, the marks allocated. If marks allocated is just 4 or 2, if you give a very lengthy, vivid description about the question, there is no point. So limit it. But I want to tell you, like, so distinguish the difference between describe and explain. In the description, you can go beyond the basic things. But when you explain, it looks to be more or less the same, but it has a little difference. So explanation also goes along with the facts, but you can bring additional examples or any comparison or any citation. Additional information can be brought in to explain it, because otherwise, so for example, depending on, again, like all these things are subject to the marks allocated. If you give the formal explanation, the one who understand or one who is in that particular discipline may understand. sometimes a layman may not understand. Therefore, if you feel that that should be further explained with an example or explained with additional detail, you are free to do so. But more or less, they are within the same levels later come. So designing is different from describe, but to great extent in your examination, this designing part may not be there, but sometimes it would be there in some subjects. Design a particular course of action or design a particular strategy, design marketing strategy, something like. Therefore, it's a device, the form of structure of doing something, that is the design, especially in strategic management. Then determine, ascertain, or conclude after analysis and consideration. So determination, judgment is there. That is why it belongs to the evaluation part. Determination. Determination is ascertainment. You have to have your own judgment. You can't simply leave the answer with the facts or the outcome. You have to, some conclusion should be there. Display is the application level. It depends on what you are supposed to do. Maybe a drawing something or drafting something. So it's a display of evidence. Discuss, right? Explain in detail by argument, showing different aspects of the argument. So recall, discuss, explain here, and describe. Because these words can be interchangeably used or might confuse you. Description, you can limit it to the basic description, but the discussion, you go beyond the basic explanation. You have to argue that way, this way, both pros and cons, especially in a discussion, both pros and cons should be taken into account, should be argued. But finally, you can give your judgment. You can favor, you can select one, but you take into account all possibilities. Then that is comprehension. And the draft, write original material for the scrutiny of others. That is synthesize. So, but you may have a confusion here, like, so see, draft comes under the category of synthesization, the top order level. But you know that in your practice, day-to-day work, you may draft something. You might think that drafting is a very lower level competency or cognitive. So if you draft something clumsy or without having any evidence, yes. So, but here a draft does not mean doing something in a rough mode without having information. Here drafting is actually you are delivering your outcome. You can't draft without having facts, without having analysis, without having evaluation and all these things. So that is why it is higher order level. So draft means still ready to change, but it does not mean that that is a little or small work, low level quality. Then the drawing, something maybe producing chart, a diagram, or something like this, a knowledge level. You may have to draw a diagram or sketch a diagram, or maybe a table, something like this. Evaluation is again evaluation level. Straight away would also suggest you evaluate, appraise the meaning of significance. Explain, already discussed. Formulate is synthesis level, higher order level, devise and put into words. Identify is the lower level, therefore I skip all these. Some lower level, though they are required at your stage, you need to pay more attention on the higher order level action verbs. Interpret, it's a comprehension, it's understanding, give meaning of or clarity. Justify, justification cannot be done without having reasons, analysis, valid reasons. So therefore, in the discussion, what is the difference between discussion and justification? In the discussion, even you can conclude your answer without taking a stance, without taking a judgment. You discuss, this can happen, these are the consequences, social consequences, political consequences, economic consequences. Likewise, you can explain all those things in that way or this way. But when it comes to justification, again, you can discuss, you can bring about those arguments for and against, but you take a particular line of argument. You try to justify that particular course of action. For example, you recommend, you want to justify going for leasing is the best alternative decision for the financial management. Therefore, you justify it. Even though you have facts to justify another reason, you should not bring it. You bring facts, other facts, just to discard other options. Bring more and more facts to justify. Even the case or the question may have some facts to highlight another. But if you have selected, chosen to go ahead with one option, please justify your option. So I hope it is clear. Otherwise, even justification, if you give all like both pros and cons of each and every action, it's not justification, it's a discussion. In a justification, you take one unit or the line of argument. Listing is primary level, but in any case, even corporate level or strategic level, if you are asked to list something, just list it. Don't write anything, because due to some or other reasons, because examiners are also humans, in the setting papers or moderations, or due to some other reasons, some areas which are not intended to be in corporate or strategic level may be there. Or sometimes in one question, examiner may want to gradually test whether you have gradually gained all the competency level. So therefore, examiner may intend to test you from listing, from the knowledge, basic cognitive levels. Don't be confused in case if you get such low level action verbs. But your action should be at that level. In listing, you should not give analysis. Manage, direct, control, administer, or guide. That is higher order level. Perform. Then the application level. So some of the things like so already discussed, I can skip. Planning, maybe in auditing or assurance subjects, you may have to plan your audit, then devise the plan for an assurance engagement. So straightforward. Prepare, make or get ready for use. That is the application. Prepare an account, a schedule, or any other thing. Just preparation, nothing else. Present information. But in our subjects, it is unlike that we are asked to present something. Sometimes in a discussion mode, you may be asked to present information to the board of directors or any other committee. So you are presenting, but your presentation may be given in a report. Prioritize, then therefore you argue. So you see the difference between this prioritize and justification. In the justification, you take only one stance, but in the prioritization, you prioritize, you rank, right? So all the feasible solutions are ranked. Then provide examples. The straightforward, you need to give the examples. In the case of recommendation, that again deals with the evaluation. I have seen some answer scripts in response to recommendation. Nice analysis were done, critical investigations were done, finally no recommendation. All those things were there, but the recommendation is not there. Then you may not get full marks, but not only full, but the significant portion of the marks may go for the recommendation. So that is what you are required to do. You have done all the other things, required supportive information, but the final thing, what is most required, may not have been done. Reconciliation is straightforward. That is the application. You do lots of reconciliation. I'm not going to discuss. Even recording at this particular level would be very little. uh, relate, that is also very basic, just connection between that and this. At this level it is not that important. They give final the formal final conclusion for an assurance engagement. Report writing, so this is synthesis. In the new taxonomy it is evaluation. Of course you are supposed to do lots of this report writing, even case study and other subjects at the corporate level, especially corporate level, you are required to report. Reports are in the form of write-ups. Write-ups. Then you need to provide them in such a manner. You need to follow these pattern structures, including the conclusion and recommendation. And review is also evaluation part, and the critical analysis is there. Sometimes you are required to review the actions taken by a manager, auditor, or any other employee and give your comments. Resolving also the evaluation. So resolving is a settling or finding a solution. Sometimes in a board level or committee level, there are discussions about new introduction of new product. But finally, members come out with various arguments, 101 arguments. Maybe as the finance manager, you are asked to resolve. Then you need to take into account each and every argument put forward by each committee member and give your own judgment why and how, in what way it should be resolved. Setting is application. This is simple low level. Selection is also application. Straightforward, I skip them. Then submit, that is also just providing information. Undertake, use is also application. Validate, also evaluation. Like now you see, pay more attention on action verbs in the categories of evaluation, application, synthesization, and mainly just synthesization, application, comprehension, evaluation. So they are the key action verbs which are mostly used in examination at corporate and strategic levels. Now, I will move on to your responses, how you should respond to these action verbs. If you have any questions or clarification about the action verbs or how it is going to be understood, you can pose some question. Now, your task, how are we going to respond to these action verbs? That is very challenging task for candidates. Why I'm saying this? Now, due to some other reason, first of all, sometimes we may not have fair knowledge about the meaning of action verbs. That is one. The other thing is there are so many action verbs as given in this thing. As a result, you may have a confusion, what action verb, or what does it mean, how I'm going to distinct one action verb from the other and all these things. So better not to worry. As a layman, read the question first, starting with the action verb. Sometimes when you read, normally we read a question from the beginning to end, isn't it? So that is the normal way. That is how we read. So you are given a text or a paragraph. You read it. You have information. Maybe these are the suggestions given by different managers. These are the additional information available. Market information, cash inflows and outflows, and you are asked to suggest, give a recommendation to top management to go for a next best short-term financial management strategy or the working capital strategy. Then you read the action verb at last. That is the traditional mode of reading. But I recommend you to read the action verb first. Action verb first. You glance, because normally in most of structured questions, unlike they are multiple choice questions, structured or semi-structured questions, so which are likely to be seen in your strategic and corporate level examinations, action verb is seen at the end, towards the end of the question. Read it first, underline it, highlight it, read it 2-3 times, and not only that word, together with the entire task, because towards the end, together with that particular action verb, it clearly explains or requires, just states what action is needed to be done. Discuss both pros and cons of going for a right issue at this time. Discussion. Then before reading the context, now you know that you have sent a signal to your mind, the brain mind saying, I am supposed to discuss both pros and cons. The discussion is your action. You shouldn't do anything. You shouldn't write any report or any other judgment or consultation. Just give a discussion. Then keeping that signal or sending that signal to your mind, and you start reading the text. I know that this is a bit difficult for candidates since we are accustomed to read starting from the beginning to end, traditional mode. I advise maybe you have a couple of months or maybe something like, I don't know when, but read a few question papers and try to inculcate such practices in you. That would really, really help. And in responding to action verbs, first one is understanding the action verb. You need not to know about the subject. As a layman, first conclude whether you understood the action verb and what you are supposed to do as a layman. For example, assume that, say, there is a question, action verb, compute, or maybe kind of say something related to mathematics, advanced mathematics. A particular formula may have been given. Compute these things by using this particular formula. But you read it and understand the action, but you do not know the facts. It's something else. You got it? So, like, don't worry about whether you know it when you read the question. First, try to understand it. Even if you do not know anything, sometimes if you understand the question well, understand the action verb well, there may be a kind of avenue for you to find a kind of answer, maybe support some to some extent in your answer. Why I am saying this? One of the fallacies in answering, so students face in answering to question papers, is we are attached to predetermined answers and formats. Therefore, when we read action verbs, automatically that signal goes to your mind. Your mind works in such a manner to great extent that works in the form of fuzzy logics, and it recalls what you have stored in your brain. You have predetermined answers in your brain. You have predetermined formats in your brain. So therefore, your attention will go to those things and not to the action verb. That is really, really dangerous. Because of that, what would happen? You simply ignore, actually, this is a chemical process reaction. Automatically, you ignore the action, but may favor your predetermined answer because you love that answer, you know it, you love that particular format, you have practiced it. Therefore, you want to quickly demonstrate that you know it. You want to show that you know that area. But the action is something else. Action is something else. So therefore, detach from predetermined answers and formats. It's a difficult exercise, but try. Then you better sketch the structure for the answer. Before starting or before writing, starting the write-up, you better sketch. Have a small plan. These are the area that I'm going to discuss. If it is a discussion, these are the things 1, 2, 3, and I will explain both pros and cons. If it is an explanation, yes, this is, I'll limit it in 1 sentence or 2 sentences. So that's it. So that should be there in your mind. Those things, 1, 2, 3 bullet points should not be written in your answer script. They are not really workings. or they deal with mental models. Then you have to start delivering the real answer with a flow. Flow has to be maintained. Many cases we have noticed, answers are there, facts are there, and some analysis evaluations are there, not in an arranged manner. Flow is not maintained. Then the evaluator or the examiner will have to put an extra effort to put it into a form. It depends. You should not take a chance. Examiners are not supposed to do these things. Sometimes examiners might read hard and arrange it and assume this. So it's unlikely to be expected nowadays, since we maintain highly objective assessments nowadays. So as a result, if you do not maintain a flow, important points may have been ignored, or sometimes may have been written in unnecessary places. The examiner may simply overlook it. Then finally, self-confirmation of the response. So it does not mean that don't get it wrong or confused with this point. You might think that, oh, this point is to recheck your answer. No, so this is not rechecking your answer. This is a self-confirmation about your response. Just glance whether you have delivered what you have sketched. That's it. I do not recommend students to recheck answers even if you have more time. Of course, sometimes if you have plenty of time left, better not to leave the examination hall. You can recheck or do any kind of things that you want. But basically, allocate your time wisely. Better not to waste it for redundancy tasks. Right. There is a caveat in this response to action verbs, but I'm just explaining you from the evaluator's point of view. But there is a psychology. I'm just going to tell you in a way trick, but you have to use it very carefully. When you react to an action, there would be few alternatives. One is perfect reaction to the action verb. That means you have been asked to do a reconciliation, or you have been asked to do a critical evaluation. You have been asked to explain the consequences of this decision. Then if you have done it, that means so you have responded to that action perfectly. Then there is a chance that you may not have analyzed. You may have done a calculation only. All the calculations. Critical analysis is not there. Your conclusion is not there. That means so you have not acted or responded on the action, not acted upon what you command. So great chance is there that you would lose marks, even though your analysis is fantastic. So task is not there, your final judgment is not there, marks may not be there. The third scenario, apart from these things, so there may be any other different scenarios you can think of, that way, this way, or that percentage, that proportion of this much, that much, likewise. I'm just telling you very crystal clear difference or demarcations of responses. Very good ideal response and wrong response. That means you are acting on another action. You are not responding to the asked action. Third one is you are acting, you are responding on the action, but with maybe little deviation from the action, but with correct facts. So what you have given are factually correct, but may not be relevant to action. Of course, that answer is wrong. Of course, that answer is wrong. But sometimes there is a chance that the psychological chance would be there. Since the facts that you have written you may be able to gain some marks. So what is the lesson that you have to learn from that? Um, when you write something, if you have any confusion, doubt, or any other thing, better not to write wrong facts, wrong information, or stupid things, because it will show something about your caliber, your competencies. Even if you write something wrong, just write like your response is a different action. You better write the right things, factually right things. If you are not certain, better not to write these things. So we have done a small survey. It's like a research, but not gone up to research level. Sometimes evaluators, examiners tend to allocate marks for right answers but irrelevant. For example, say in the cash flow statement. So you are given a cash flow statement, and significant cash flows are there, maybe in operating activities, financing, and investing activities. Your question is, um, say, say, explain the significance of cash flows or net cash flows generated under each activity pertaining to of this particular like ABC Limited. What is the action? Explain the significance of cash flows generated or net cash flow generated under each category by ABC Limited. Explain significance. But due to some other reason you do not know um, to explain its significance, or you understood it differently, your action was not to respond in such a way that is explaining the significance. Instead, you may have written explanation about cash flows. So definition of like operating cash flows, cash flows from financing activities, investing activities, likewise different forms of cash flows. Then what happens? The answer is wrong. But what we have written, if you have written factually correct things about these cash flows, there is a chance. But I just told you this thing. In case if you deviate from the initial response to action, be mindful of these things. Now we will take a few examples from your. So this is the last examination held in February, I suppose. The corporate level, corporate governance, assurance and ethics paper, corporate level. Question number one. Question number one. PNP associates. So anyway, just forget about the text. Look at the question required. What is required? Explain. The explanation. So it's not simple definition. You have to come out with your the explanation. What you have to explain for procedures PNP should carry out. It's not simple like listing of procedures. It is not we should carry out prior to accepting nomination. It's an explanation, but that explanation should not be that lengthy. Why you have to pay attention on marks? 4 marks. Therefore, one explanation carries only 1 mark. Then it would be a perfect or a good answer if you can explain a procedure with what it really means, right? Instead of listing, then that would carry mark. Need not to give additional example or further discussions or elaboration is not required. That is how you have to frame your answer. Pay attention on the action verb, what is to be required, like to be delivered, and pay attention on marks. So that is a general point. So as a technique, you better use a highlighter or any other marker to focus this thing, like highlight this, explain. Normally exam papers bold these things. Not only this, and these 4 procedures. And it is good to pay attention on these two. This business is in extracting and processing minerals for exports. That matters in developing. And additional information is also given. GPL or its management is not known to PNP. The independence, in a way, some additional information is given to you about its independence. So according to the procedures, so the level or the extent of the procedures can be decided. Then you can explain accordingly. But I'm not going to develop an answer for this thing. I'm just trying to explain you how you should develop your answers. Better not to hurry or jump in writing because of the time limitation and other things. Students become panic and jump to conclude something. Better not do this. Plan it. Just take few minutes, maybe 30 seconds. That's not a waste. Then you are highly instructed. You know what to do. Then example number 2. That's also from the same paper. In the course of acceptance procedures carried out by PNP, the following were brought to your attention. Then what are you supposed to do? Then you better come here. Required. Evaluate. Before reading these 3, evaluate. Read this. The effect of the matters described in 1 to 3. Evaluation is, that is the evaluation, higher order level, about on the acceptance of the audit engagement. So therefore, it is very clear, your boundaries are clear. You need to comment, like evaluation has to be done on these 3. And before or on the acceptance of the audit engagement. The marks allocated 6, therefore you know that each point will carry 2 marks. So evaluation is needed. Then first one, now you better start reading. PNP had been the auditor for the mining company 10 years ago, whereas the team who was engaged in the audit, including the audit partner, is no longer with PNP. So additional information, it's experience, but it's 10 years ago that it says PNP had been the auditor. It does not say that it has been the auditor. It has a doubt. Then you can bring those aspects, whether the auditor has that expertise with the audit firm, whether the expertise has been passed or not, we do not know. That is where in the evaluation you need to bring about these things. So sometimes that information, so vagueness may be seen. So vagueness can be used as a tool or an input for your answer. The second one, Raj Fernando, a director at GPI and a significant shareholder, is holding a position in a government and is a close associate of cabinet minister. Then you need to take into account these contextual facts, or the political context and even business context. And that is how you have to evaluate in what way it's going to influence your procedures or your opinion, your task, then that aspect. Then Ajit Fonseca, a director of GPL, was director of an export company, which had significant environmental non-compliance matters, and that has resulted in litigation by authorities. So additional information is there. So first of all, it passes you some information that you need to be a little bit precautious, but at the same time, we do not know whether like Ajit Fonseca may have acted bona fide and has tried to bring the or to make all those compliance well, but due to other reasons, we do not know. So, but with the prevailing, like the given information, you have to develop your skepticism and think from that perspective, from risk perspective, evaluate the situation. So that is how you have to develop your answers. Then we will move on to example number 3. Again, the same question. Evaluate the appropriateness of the paragraph referred to in 4 above. Paragraph has been given. I'll show you. As included in the auditor's report by the senior in charge of the audit of silk fabric in respect to the given scenario. Then advice, this is an evaluation only, you evaluate it. Here opinion, judgment is needed. Advise the senior in charge of the audit. So here you do the evaluation, just see the difference. You do the evaluation as the audit senior, right? Evaluate the appropriateness of paragraph even in the above as included in the auditor's report by senior in charge. Actually, the question is not that much clear. In what capacity are you supposed to evaluate? You got it? So that is a missing point in this question. So senior, the in charge of the audit of SILP has included something in the audit report, but you are going to evaluate. In what capacity we do not know. Therefore, you have a kind of liberty to interpret, maybe as an investment analyst, or maybe from independent user of financial statement, reader, or whoever. So it's free to you. And the second one, advise the senior in charge of the audit of silk fabric how he should deal with the matter described in above, that the 5 above, in the auditor's report. So therefore, it is very clear that the senior in charge of the audit team cannot be advised by the outsiders. It should be audit manager or audit partner, likewise, so superior. So you have to think that one who is going to give advices on the senior in charge should have superior knowledge about audit, otherwise you can't advise. So think from that particular perspective. So 5 has been given here, advice. Silk fabric had not recognized an impairment charge on its non-current assets. So this is the statement, 5 above. This is 5. As per LKS 36 impairment of assets, the impairment charge was determined at 15 million, whereas the overall materiality, that is the audit gauge, is 8 million. So this is material amount significantly higher than the audit gauge. So therefore, you need to advise your senior member how we should deal with a matter described in. So is that adequate, or should it should have been so considered some other aspect, procedures, or any aspects of risk mitigation? So these things can be discussed, but again, pay attention on marks allocated. Now, example 4. Evaluate the present internal environment of SNS by commenting on 4 aspects of the business. Evaluation. So when you evaluate, of course, you have to give a kind of judgment, of course, that has to be. But one thing is there, by commenting on 4 aspects of the business. If you carefully read this sentence, again, you must be able to notice something. Evaluate the present internal environment. You can evaluate, of course, good. By commenting on 4 aspects of the business, 4 aspects may be there, you are commenting, but you are supposed to comment. Actually, the action verb comment does not have a very clear meaning, what you are supposed to do. Commenting what? Simply commenting your opinion, commenting on what aspect is not there. Therefore, again, you have the liberty to, but then if you generally comment about its suitability, its applicability, validity, so would be all right, because it's a comment, right? So sometimes these kind of minor deviations from the real meaning of actions may be seen in exam papers. Don't worry. They recommend. This is a straightforward action verb. Recommend. You have to recommend. How? With facts. 3 risk mitigating measures SNS should take. Straightforward question compared to this one. So therefore, answer to part B would be relatively easy compared to A. But again, in A, you have a little bit freedom because of this particular word, commenting on 4 aspects. Propose one control each on the following. So propose. So therefore, you are not required, even though we have used little bit high order word, actually you need not to bring additional arguments, justification and all these things, because propose, but it is good to entail each proposal with a justification. Why do you propose it? Simply instead of listing, otherwise it would be listing. When you propose something 1 2 3, one control each, it looks like listing. Listing may not be attractive for the evaluator to give you full marks, but if you can give a proposal with a reason or justification, of course these 3 marks can be quickly obtained. Then the assess the effectiveness of the present incumbent in the role of internal auditors. So it's assessment. Therefore, when you are assessing, facts are needed, analysis needed, evaluation needed, and your judgment is needed. Remember that. Recommendation also same, but here limit your recommendation to 4 actions, but your judgment should be there. Then example number 5. I have taken from December 2019. Actually, this is the paper before the new syllabus. I wanted to just highlight you a little bit vagueness in this action verb. For example, simply forget about these texts or paragraphs. If you read it, comment on your ethical responsibility in accordance with Code of Ethics issued by CS Sri Lanka. How do you feel? Comment on your ethical responsibility in accordance with the Code of Ethics issued by CS Sri Lanka. Of course, you may have some understanding guidelines because you have gone through the Code of Ethics issued by CS Sri Lanka. Therefore, basically, you may talk about ethical responsibilities and all those things. But here, the action verb, comment on your ethical responsibility. Commenting means it does not direct you. Of course, you have to talk about ethical responsibility. What are you supposed to talk about? Comment. If you say that, yes, ethical responsibilities have been adhered or have not been adhered, that's also a comment, right? So then the question itself really puts a blockade for you to develop your answer. In case if you get such an answer, don't worry about that too much, but develop based on the ethical responsibility from any perspective. Ethical responsibility, it's useful like whether it has been fulfilled, whether you have deviated from this thing, and the consequences of these fulfilling of ethical responsibility, and these other things, or any other governance issues pertaining to these ethical responsibilities in line with Code of Ethics. So you are free to comment. So that's what I just wanted to highlight. You need not to read this paragraph. The point here is, but in examination, especially in from 2020 onwards, we try our level best to minimize the use of some action verbs which are not that, I cannot say that that's clear, but might create some confusion in the candidates. So this is also a paper taken from December 2019, corporate financial reporting, corporate level. Required as the financial accountant. Now, you see, it is very clear. Your role is defined. Recommend the best fundraising option out of 2 options mentioned above by analyzing the impact on the financial statements of HP based on the principles of LKS 32 financial instruments. So actually this question is very clear. You have to give the recommendation. That means your conclusion, your judgment, your opinion should be given. But opinion should be given simply by comparing two options. Two options should be explained, developed based on these financial statements, maybe financial performance, but financial statements, especially on the financial instruments. So it is very focused. Scope is clearly given for you. But mind that 10 marks have been allocated. So therefore, adequate discussion should be there, option should have been discussed, and finally, you must be able to bring about both pros and cons of two options and highlight one. In a way, recommendation goes along with the justification. It's a justification, you justify. Now, I will move on to the last section of preparation for open book examination. Well, before moving on to that, again, if I just summarize the use of action verb that plays a bigger role in assessing candidates in examination, not only in professional examination, in all the examination nowadays throughout the world. And learners, teachers and learners are encouraged to carry out their tasks in line with action verbs. Therefore, action verbs have to be developed and used in line with intended learning outcomes, in line with the contents that we teach, in line with the objectives of each program, course, unit, and everything. So finally, there can't be action verbs in isolation. Action verbs cannot come from heaven and ask you to do something. Action verbs should have a link to your intended learning outcomes. In other words, so other option is available for candidates to master action verbs. Please read your intended learning outcomes once, twice, thrice, or maybe as many as you want until you be familiarized with these action verbs. These are the probable action verbs you would see at the examination for sure. Then the communication is clear, then you know what is going to be tested, what type of action verbs are used. Again, as I just told you, even though we have used Bloom's taxonomy has been also revised, and taxonomy is valid for any subject, all the subjects in this world. And again, the taxonomy has been developed in a hierarchical manner, and towards the end of the course or program, unit, or whatever, we are supposed to achieve high order level learning domains. So therefore, now you are in the corporate level and strategic level. So therefore, in all means, you should be reaching this. So top order level evaluation, synthesizing, analysis, likewise. So top order level. But we should not forget the fact that some of the basic level domains may go along with these top level learning domains. Therefore, in your question papers, sometimes you may see lower level action verbs. Depending on the situation, you better tackle. I just told you how best you should develop your response to action verb. First, the comprehension, understanding the action verb is a key to success. If you do not comprehend the key action verb, that is a failure at the beginning. Then the second situation is you must be free from predetermined answers. So should not deal with fuzzy logics. So try to be independent from what you have learned or set answers. Independently read the action verb and try to develop an answer. Then align it accordingly as I explain you, deliver it, and make sure that it has been delivered in an orderly manner. Then that's fine. Hope if you can do that, of course, you can be happy that you have delivered answers according to the action verbs. That would be perfect, and that would be easy for the examiners to assess you. Now the final part, I will move on maybe another 10 minutes or so. Preparation for open book examination. Though it seems to be the easiest one, as I just told you, this is the toughest mode of examination in the world. But it depends how we have devised it, One of the aspects in the open book examination is It's a thorough overview of the subject is required. Need not to know all the facts. In the case of closed book examination, you need to have some part of cognition, knowledge. You have to memorize things, relations, because without which you can't reproduce that in the examination. But in open book examination, you should not be a master of memorizing things, but you should be a master of having an overview of the subject. In a way, what we call getting an helicopter view of the subject, the full view from the what we call helicopter view or the bird eye view. From top you look at, you know the scope, the aspects, areas, these are the things. You better develop a sketch of this thing. And one of the best tools which educationists have and especially psychologists have developed is the mind mapping. Mind mapping is this, even you can use computer software and applications. You develop a particular concept, based on that, the other concepts are connected to this. And that will give you an overview of the subject. For each subject, you can bring this mind mapping to the examination. So I'm sure that you are familiar with this thing. If you're not familiar, just go to the internet and type this, you would find it. It's connected. You develop one concept, around that one concept, all the the concepts and other subtopics are discussed. Then link, relation from one theme to other would be connected. Mind mapping might help you to get an overview of the subject. And you are not supposed to pay attention on all the aspects or the learning areas in the open book examination. What you are supposed to do instead, pay attention, focus on main themes. Develop your learning based on themes. Even if it is say governance, so what are the major themes? So development, governance, ethics, different school of governance and ethics, likewise, main themes. And major topics. Actually, topic comes within a theme. Theme is broader than a topic. And within a topic, subtopics are there. Actually, this structure, schema, will help you to develop mind mapping. Themes, topics, subtopics would lead to a mind mapping. Mind mapping will develop the overview of the subject. Then key concepts. Actually, concepts are different from themes, topics, and subtopics. Themes, topics, and subtopics are the ways in which the content, learning contents, are arranged in line with intended learning outcomes. Concepts are within these things, some concepts can be seen. For example, in learning governance, one of the concepts would be the agency theory. Theory and concepts, actually, key concepts and theories. One word is missing, you can add it. Key concepts and theories. You better write them. You must be aware of this thing. So it is more likely that the question would lead to these concepts and theories. Agency theory. Or concepts like discounted cash flow technique. It's a concept. It's a concept. Then preparation of brief notes. Just hold on. 1 minute. Sorry that I have not connected into the plug. Battery is getting down. So no worries. I'll just make the arrangement. So I was just talking about overview, focus on main themes, and key concepts and theories, and preparation of brief notes. If possible, prepare brief notes. Don't get it confused with short notes. That's a different concept. Short notes we students prepare in the same way. Sometimes that is also, when you take compilation of all short notes, it becomes another textbook. the brief notes. So that has to be kept separately. So you better have a mind map, sketch, themes, topics, and subtopics, 1 or 2 sheets. Everything is in there. Hello, Aruna, are you hearing me now? Hello, hello. I have connected. Are you hearing me?
Yes, it is.
Okay, just wait a minute. I'll just. Okay, I'm so sorry. Is the screen is seen now?
Not yet. Not yet. Not yet.
Is it okay?
Okay, now we can see.
Okay. Yeah, some may have already quitted the room, left the meeting. No worries. I'm so sorry for the inconvenience caused to you due to this power issue. So what I was just talking about the preparation for open book examination, I just simply explained you the nature of open book examination, the essentials, what you are supposed to do to be successful at open book examination. You need to have an overview of the subject. How are we going to get that overview? You can develop a mind mapping based on main themes, topics, and subtopics. And you better have a separate list called key concepts and theories. Some subjects theories involved, such as corporate governance, assurance. Some subjects theories may not be there, but concepts, even auditing, accounting, finance, even other management related subjects, marketing, and all this, the combination. So there could be concepts. Prepare a list of this. And especially when it comes to these before brief notes, the separate preparation for each place you have to have a reference. For example, in the mind mapping, particular box says particular behavior, so agency theory, then you have to have a post-it or any other label there with the respective page number reference in the study text or any other material. So best thing is to use the study text. Study text has been arranged in such a manner to cover all the learning contents. So therefore reference is there. That is one. The even concepts also. So each concepts you have a post-it or reference label with the page number of the text. And then the preparation of brief notes. It's, I just told you, they are not short notes but brief notes on selected and more prominent aspects. Brief notes should not be written for all the things. So you better have brief notes for areas where you have some confusion and lots of facts are there. Then better develop only brief notes, only for those things. Then this is a little bit big task, but might be useful for you. This is what we call preparation of referencing schedule. Preparation of referencing schedule. Apart from these above four, you can, for this purpose, you can use Excel application. Again, for main themes, topics, subtopics, and concepts in alphabetical order, you can write them in the Excel sheet in one column. And another column, if you want referencing another subtopic or theory connection, something like second column or third column. The last column, you can have the referencing page number. You have to write. So the entire study text for the manual can be summarized into 1, 2, 3, maximum 5, 6 pages. If you can limit the number of pages, so it is more convenient for you to handle at the examination, because otherwise at the examination you might be confused, maybe panic, like would not be able to trace easily. Then you have this detailed referencing schedule with respective page numbers. And in the text manual, you have to have corresponding post-it tag with the name of that concept. In the referencing schedule, you have the page number, but at that, for example, say, whatever, it's a discounted cash flow, the page number 100, you go to page number 100, there is a post-it. So on the page number 100, you write down the name called referring back like the main theme, discounted cash flow. then you can easily um, cross check. That is what we call cross referencing. You refer to that way and this way. If you refer only to one side, you have to struggle of turning pages. That might consume time. So if I summarize, these materials or referencing materials should be done in a highly concise and a bridge manner, and a very like well organized manner, in such a way that you can easily trace that way or this way. But even though this is an open examination book, it's always advisable you to go through, read, and understand the subject thoroughly, right? Even though this is an open book, your first attempt to answer to questions should not be the approach of taking material from the whatever the points from the different types of material that you have brought to the examination. That is in a case of need, in a contingent situation only. If your strategy, whole strategy of answering to all the questions by taking stuff from your range material, you will not be able to finish your answers within the time allocated for sure. Then try to use your own knowledge that you have gathered and arranged and paying attention on action verbs without referring to the books. Just continue quick and finish that part first. Leave the questions or the section that you are not confident enough to answer with the knowledge that you have and on your own without referring to book. Only for those parts you better use the referencing and these schedules. That would be the best strategy. Lastly, once you have finished answering, if the time is available, then of course you can modify. So first you finish your answer like maybe 80% or 70% you finish without referring to the book, 30% finished by referring to the book, you wrote it, so you are happy. But another 10 minutes is available. Then you can quickly use these cross references and check whether you have included everything or whether you can add something more to these points. And another don't is, since we have open book examination, there is a misbelief that we have to provide more information, give more facts, and the write-up should be lengthy. Don't believe in this misconception. No matter whether it is an open book or closed book, what examiners are worried about, what examiners are concerned about the accuracy, relevance, and substance of your answers in line with action verbs. If you are happy that you have responded adequately to the action verb, that's it. Even though you have additional information, material, or example, better not to write them. It is unnecessary work. This is not an exercise of writing thesis or doing an assignment. You need to free from all these things, think that this is time examination. So timed examination, therefore you have to deliver. Only difference is, in case if you need it, you can use books. So referencing might help you, but finally, what matters is your confidence and competencies. No matter whether you have all those tools and preparation, if you have not developed your competencies, you can't. Even though you have competencies, if you're not confident enough of answering to the questions, again, you can't do this. So best way of just delivering is to respond only to action verbs. Don't write anything for any other actions which have not been asked, or the action that you imagine that the examiner may want this one. Limit your answer to the asked actions. So with that, I would like to conclude. So the time, I just wanted to cover all those, but I hope that I was just able to give you some the glimpse of use of action verbs, how they come, and your responses, the relevance of open book examination, and your preparation. So it's a basic guide, and that would help you if you can work on it and do your preparation. So therefore, I wish everybody a great success to examination. So the forthcoming, do not know when, once that is so, but don't worry about the present situation. The country's just the COVID-19 situation. Better continuously engage in your education. I'm sure that everyone will be able to get a satisfactory result, for the result that you will be proud of yourself. So thank you very much and all the best.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Anil Fernando, for your
Okay.
insight for the presentation. Thanks a lot, sir.
Okay, is that Sajivani?
Yeah.
Okay, Sajivani. So are there any questions posed by students?
Yeah, there are a few, sir.
If the time permits, we can answer.
We can discuss.
Okay.
One of the students is asking, can we summarize important case studies on Companies Act?
Sorry, again, sir, can we
summarize important case studies on Companies Act?
You mean to say in developing an answer, or like to?
Yeah, it is not clear.
Material. I'm not, because summarize in a sense just as a preparation of text, right? Maybe for the open book examination. Yes, that's good. That would be a good preparation, something like this. Okay, so you like preparation of brief notes. Actually, that should be a part of this, since that is a taxation, just maybe the corporate law, right? Maybe any case studies, of course, if that is within the contents of your syllabi, of course, you better have a brief note, but it shouldn't be a lengthy summary. The key point of each case, maybe the name of the case, year, and the verdict. That is enough. And give a reference number to that particular case. So sometimes if you have a lengthy material or the detailed analysis of that particular case, you can bring. I hope that any material. So is it allowed? Are students allowed to bring any material?
At the moment, Dr. Anil, we are having the only recommended material for the exam.
What are they?
For example, for the law subject, we are actually recommending only the Company Act.
Okay. Then how about the summary? So as I just explained, if they prepare a brief notes.
Actually, if we take the recommended material for itself, the student can write down the short notes. That should be relevant to the content of the books. They are not allowed to bring the other short notes to the examination hall.
No, short notes, brief notes, so they are not allowed. So how are we going to check whether brief notes have been prepared based on the text?
No, we are having the inspectors at the examination halls. They are checking. They are supposed to check the student has bring the brief notes or short notes. The students can only allow to make notes on their recommended materials. That is also, it should be relevant to the content included in the recommended material.
Okay, then that is fine. Then what they can do is just prepare the brief notes. Then brief notes, they can have a reference number to the approved text material. Then it is of course the examiners can see, okay, this particular brief note has a relevance to that material. Actually, open book examination, it would be really inconvenient for students if they open big book and turn here and there to find the thing. So there should be a guide. So this is the most effective way of preparing a guide for open book examination. Then I hope students can arrange all those things within the given guidelines. So always refer these notes to your approved material. That's it.
Yeah.
Even your Excel preparation can be referred to the material.
Yes, doctor.
Yeah, then that would be allowed. Any other questions?
Yeah, one student is asking, in a question,
Hmm.
will there be only one action verb mentioned, or can there be more than one action verb?
Most probably, there should be only one action verb for each question. Like there are several parts. When we take
Yeah.
question number one, part A, B, C, D, likewise, even part A again, Roman simple 1, 2, 3, likewise, separation can be done. But for each question, there should be only one action verb, and that is the standard. But there could be situation two action verbs. That is the maximum. So it is unlikely that three action verbs are used, because then that would be a bit complicated for students. But you need not to worry. If there are action verb more than one, you need to respond to both actions. For example, analyze and critically evaluate, or analyze and recommend, something like. So it depends on the subject, but examiners are advised, like now discussion is there, basically for one section only one action verb. But in any case, if you see many action verbs, of course you have to respond to all or each action verb even within one question separately, maybe in separate section or in one go. Your answer should have responded to all the actions.